horse drifted alarmingly in the betting was, Fencel in the morning continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Buttons.
The ground is soft. It's
heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
Hello and welcome. Yes, it's that time again. It's Sunday sermon. Better than Bullseye. No, it's not better than Bullseye.
No, it's not.
It's better than Highway, and it's better than that other shit they used to prom with Esther Ranson on Sunday night. That's live.
Dr. Quinn, medicine woman.
Yeah.
Cool, that's going back, isn't it? Christ.
It is, and of course, as you know by now, you regular listeners, and if you're not regular, joining me this evening is my partner in crime, Mr. John Lang, and of course, Chris Lord Malvo, who is a big part of the Bastards team. Welcome this evening, chaps.
Good evening.
I'd just like to point out before we start, declaration of interests here. I've been in touch with Lord Ali, and he has kindly supplied me with tonight's pair of tenner for men that I'm wearing.
Sponsored by Tenner for Men. There's a thing. We should get sponsorship from them, yeah. Shitting and pissing ourselves. Yeah.
Indeed. We've turned down 2 bookmaker sponsorships.
We're waiting for the big one. Tenner Man.
And of course, this week I'm in good form because my good friend John sent me down a lovely bottle of tipple this week.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's Isle of Barra gin. And it's 46% proof, which is absolutely tremendous, of course.
Yeah, surgical alcohol.
Blows your brains off. But before people start saying about liver and dangerous, well, you need to go on the Isle of Barra website because it says it contains medicinal things. Yes. So I am drinking this evening on Bastardshire with medicine on my side. There you
Saving
go.
the NHS, aren't you? That's what you're doing.
So John has thought about that rather logically and thought, yeah, I don't want to kill him off too quick.
No.
And he's given me one that has all the good stuff in, apparently.
Gin that makes you better.
Yeah. So all good tonight.
Yes.
Without further ado, well, let's go on with tonight's show. And no time for review this week. But it's one of the worst weekends that we can think of in terms of betting and reviewing.
Do you not think we should review the action at Southwell?
Of course, yeah, we'll come on to that. That takes precedent over the rest of it, I think. And of course, if you weren't aware, you were sort of stuck under a rock for a while, City of Troy made his debut at Southwell Racecourse. Not in an actual race, but of course, I think it was a 5-runner gallop. And 1,500 people, John, turned up to witness the great horse on his prep towards a Breeders' Cup Classic. So we've had quite a few opinions on this, and I'll mention them as we go on. But first, I'd like to get your take on it. What's your thoughts on that gallop and everything about it?
Well, as you know, I've always been a big City of Troy fan, but I must admit some of the talk's starting to get under my toenails a bit now. For example, this replicating the Breeders' Cup and what have you. I mean, why he needed to come to Southwell, I don't know. I'd be absolutely astonished if Aidan O'Brien hasn't got an all-weather strip, and I'd be almost as astonished if it wasn't to Peter. I would imagine if he can get a set of American starting stalls to Southwell, he could get a set of American starting stalls to Ballydoyle. Also, if he hadn't won that gallop in the manner that he did, say he just won, would that have been classed as a disaster given the horses he was up against? I think it would. I think that was no more than an adequate performance.
I think that's the thing. I don't take too much into gallop work, but what I would say is it's an hiding to nothing doing it in public like that because you've got 1,500 turn up, the media circus are there, Sky Sports Racing are televising it, and you've got a lot of detractors on social media, City of Troy, who still aren't convinced he's the real deal. So, of course, if the horse, like you say, puts in a lesser performance than what he did, they're all over that and saying, well, that wasn't very good, was it? I didn't see the upsides. But look, we're going against a master trainer here that absolutely knows what he's doing. And maybe he felt he needed that atmosphere, a few at the racetrack, just to keep him.
It's the sort of thing you do with horses that are getting a bit jaded at home, though, isn't it, usually?
Well, it's as if they wanted to keep him either alive. Because the one thing I've always noticed with Troy, and you have as well, is how relaxed and professional he is. It's almost bizarre to see him turn up in front of big crowds like he has done and just not bat an eyelid. It's rare for a thoroughbred.
He's got one of the best temperaments I was saying on a proper horse.
Yeah, nothing's a bother to him at all. And like you said, maybe to wake him up a bit. Maybe they did a gallop at home and it wasn't what they were looking for. As if he's like getting used to it. He's getting used to his work and he's just saying, well, I'll just do enough. That kind of thing.
It's not like he hasn't had plenty of racing, is it? He had 3 last year, didn't he?
Yeah.
And what's he had this year? 4?
Yeah.
You'd be astonished if I was saying it was even more experience.
Yeah, exactly. And as you said, because it's a surface difference, we're not learning anything from it in terms of will he go on dirt, 2 different surfaces altogether.
No, this is it. I mean, you never hear anybody saying that. I hope it takes to the tapeta now here in this country. So
no, but to be honest, I feel like offence here from my own point of view because I'm certainly not in Ian O'Brien's class in knowing what the horse wants and what the horse needs to be doing. But yeah, I did find it all a bit strange.
As a punter, do you feel he's enhanced his chance by doing that?
Not really, no. I wouldn't be saying, oh, well, that's a fantastic exercise. I'm more confident now for the Breeders' Cup Classic than ever. No, not at all.
I bet the second in that gallop, so that's how good a judge I am.
Yeah.
You want to listen to these work riders, Chris?
Yeah, they said like it's not off City of Troy. I was told it was bending it up on that day, so yeah, put away again.
I reckon some bookmakers would be a bit miffed that they weren't asked to turn up and probably, I don't know, run a book on winning distance or something or something like that. Because 1,500 punters, a bit of cash in the pocket, there to be turned over.
Yeah, certainly be had over. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. In years gone by, John Gillibrand would love to have been there without the favourite. Come on, lads.
Without the fav, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of your comments, of course, because you make the show. Bert Doncaster's more or less said what you said, John. Was City of Troy Southwell Gallop pointless? What was gained in beaten horses rated £40 inferior? I think we've probably touched on that. Simon Benson says, for City of Troy to be a great, the lads will have to campaign him as a 4-year-old. Do you think they will, John?
It's not looking like it, is it?
I don't think so. I think it's Breeders' Cup and out.
Yeah, more so if it was Breeders' Cup win as well. I think that absolutely rubber stamps it then.
Yeah, I think there's a chance, isn't there, if it flops?
Yeah, I think a good stuffing on dirt makes him just try and win everything next year.
It's an interesting puzzle and very disappointing, of course, that ITV are not going to be covering it for the mainstream because that's the kind of thing that does make mainstream headlines. A horse from this side of the Atlantic going over and beating the Yankee Tanks.
It is the second part of a 2-parter on Foyle's War. They can't really make room for it, can they?
Yeah.
Foyle's War. Wasn't that sort of a detective series set in the 50s, wasn't it? Was that it?
No, it's during the fucking war, Chris. That's why it's called Foyle's War.
Was it? Oh, right. Is that right? Fucking hell. I've watched it. I thought, what a load of old... Anyway, it's a load of old shit anyway. I don't watch it, so... Fuck you and fuck Foyle's War. I'm going to Google it now, try and prove you wrong somehow. I'm going to go mute.
So, John, you started off with a really good poll, actually. Would or do you bet on the black market? And your poll result on the old Twitter were quite surprising. Well, no, not surprising, but quite interesting. You've got 317 votes. It's fair sample size. 47% would bet on the black market currently. 39% won't bet on the black market. So I presume that means...
not having it.
If they're excluded by online bookmakers, they're probably going to leave the game, which is startling, as we're a core racing audience, really. We're core racing here. So 39%, I think, quite telling. And 13% are already saying they're already betting on the black market. That number wouldn't have been, I'd say, even 5 years ago, wouldn't have been anything like that, John.
No, absolutely. I was a little bit surprised. It was like 60-40 in favour of any sort of black market contact or consideration, really, you know.
Yep.
Only 40% just absolutely rolling out the black market. Not good for racing.
No.
You know, you'd hope the BHA would take notice, but they won't, of course.
Yeah, because of course, why this poll's important, it's taking it from people actually bet, follow our account and John's account, and actually bet on the game. So it is a relevant poll, even with 300 votes. If you had 1,000, it'd be more meaningful, of course. But I think that's quite relevant of gamblers, which is very damning, of course, for the BHA. They should be looking at that poll with severe worry. Whether they will or not is another matter, as you know. So going on to that, this is the thing about the black market. We know that the current SCV model is going to force people to the black market. An example of that this week, I've been contacted by a chap. He's quite a famous chap as well. Obviously, I can't name him, but he has been.
Is it P. Diddy? Is it him?
He probably went to P. Diddy's party.
And you're on that fucking list as well. I reckon that. You looked a bit nervous. Yeah. I reckon you're on.
Yeah, Twitter's going soon. Yeah, lots going. Yeah. I won't appear in any sermons soon.
No, he's been lifted. He's in a Supermax prison in Colorado getting his shit pushed in by Hispanic gangbangers. Yeah.
Jack Beach is the reserve hearse, so Jack will be coming in to steer the pods. Then, So anyway, coming back to what I was saying, himself, he admits he's not a professional punter. He bets for fun. He's a release for him, like probably most people that like to get home after work, maybe then just have a bet on the football, do whatever. He did some bet builders with BetMGM, and he won about £700, but he was down with them overall. Like, he wasn't up with them. Obviously, he wanted to withdraw the £700. So in came the message from BetMGM, which could be false, and we have yet to find out the truth behind this, and he's on the case, that BetMGM said that Betfair had put a red flag on him, and they were to close his account for classed as a gambler with harm or an irresponsible gambler, if you know what I mean. So basically to protect the player. So if that's the case, that means that the said person that contacted me is now barred from all major corporations that support that SCV project. Now, what's interesting is I know for a fact that he isn't a danger to himself or anything else. So if this turns out to be true, and BetMGM are acting in good faith from a red flagged other account, this future really is bleak, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, no other way of looking at it. I mean, you're just going to stop everybody betting.
It's done for, isn't it? It's done for. I mean, we've said it for yonks. I mean, I don't see any kind of chinks of light, do you? I mean, this is every week something new crops up that just sort of reinforces the opinion that the game's finished, isn't it?
Well, not when Gambling with Lies have got a stall at the Labour Party conference.
Yes, I saw that.
And you see all the incumbents there, Heather Wardle, all the public health.
Bibs, bibs. They'll be selling petrol coupons and nylons during the war, during Foyle's war, actually. Yes, I've just looked right, and you're right, yeah.
In Labour's manifesto, obviously, they have said that they are going to support whatever the Gambling Commission says in the white paper regarding gambling harm. So I don't see a U-turn. I'd like to be optimistic and say that they will be, but it's looking pretty bleak. But it's interesting because we had a question from sort of Carl asking like the definition of woke. So I politely replied to him and said that woke is a person that fights against the social and political injustice for people, and which is, I think that's all well and good. I have no problem with people being compassionate towards others and saying, right, look, we need.
That's me then. I'm woke.
Yeah, but that's good, John. Right, but the point is, in all these instances of where we've brought work into society, there are no fiscal discussions. And this is happening now within the gambling industry. So you could have so many gambling suicides a year, but it's then worth bringing down the entire industry. I'm sorry, but if I said to the average work person, right, and this is a question for an average work person now, right, what would you do? You're £50,000 in savings in your account, sat there in your account. I feel like Samuel the cat now. There's 10 people you can save on the planet that you don't know, but they're going to die, right, tomorrow. Do you spend the £50,000 to do it?
Oh, would they fuck? Because you see, the problem is people who label themselves as liberal are the least liberal people on earth. What they want is heavy-handed state intervention into every aspect of people's lives, and they kid themselves that because it's for people's own good, they are liberal and compassionate people. Some of the nastiest people I've ever met in life consider themselves kind, compassionate, and spiritual, and sort of social justice warriors. But they are the most self-centered individuals you'd ever come across. And unfortunately, the left is no longer what I guess people like John and I and yourself would recognise as, a party or a political movement that looks to advance the, working and living conditions of the working classes. It's been hijacked by kind of metropolitan sort of sophisticates that have said the working class are far too stupid to govern themselves in their best interest. So we...
Do you not think, Chris, as well, that movements like Gambling with Lives and the Gambling Commission have only really taken up the cudgel on this cause because of high-profile degenerates like Mercer and Shilton moaning about losses? I mean, let's face it, if it had been people on the breadline losing the last 20 quid,
Oh, fucking stupid idiots.
nobody would have given a flying shit.
No, who
Not
cares
for a monkey.
if Keith from Stoke has knocked out his last fucking rent payment and his kids are
It's
starving?
people that could well afford to lose what they've lost. They've moaned
Yep.
about it, and they're still splodging in money.
You got it. But John, the point is these people are morally reprehensible. I'm not talking about Mercer and Shilton, but the whole kind of anti-gambling lobby, because if there was no money in it or no central government money
Oh no, you wouldn't.
to further this, they wouldn't give a shit.
No.
Couldn't care less. No, but there's a big pot of lovely cash which is mandated now by the current government, so let's all trough ourselves. And if it's something else next month, they'll move on to that. They've no interest in minimising gambling harm, and there's no evidence to suggest that any of these idiots have made a scintilla of difference in terms of, limiting gambling harm. It's just it's rubbish.
No.
It's like Miliband's mad climate policy. Let's destroy the existing energy industry in favour of wind farms. The idea being is that somehow it will create lots of extra jobs in the alternative energy sector because it's dogma. It's mad.
As you say, Chris, as well, if it had just been the lower orders losing money, it wouldn't have been a case of no one giving a shit. It would just been a fact of, well, that's how we expect scum to behave.
Correct. Self-fulfilling prophecy. Exactly right. Well, what do you expect from these people?
Yeah.
They're stupid.
We're giving
They're
them
incapable.
so much.
Correct. Absolutely right.
That would have been the argument that we need to cut benefits. They're wasting it on betting.
Yeah, you got it. Exactly right. You've nailed it. Yes, it's clearly they've got too much disposable income.
Not we need to cut footballers' wages because they're sat around 3 quarters of a week with fuck all to do, and all they do is go down to the betting shop and spunk it.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely not. No. Let's trim the benefits. Let's trim the universal credit even further.
Coming on to what you've both been talking about, which is spot on, I think. I would say that if you said to the gambling harm charities that are operating at the moment, would you do this voluntarily? And I'm sure some of them could, Sir Charles Ritchie, etc.
Sure.
Could, especially if it's a family member that you've lost. Regarding he was in Asia and obviously got himself over his head playing over there. And what that's got to do with the UK, I've never known.
No.
But anyway, but I sympathise. Look, no one wants to see a family member do that.
Absolutely not.
But if there was no money in it, how many of these gambling arm charities would bother?
Would Rob Davis bother chairing that recent conference? Would he do that? Is he doing that for nothing, do you suppose? Because of his concern for people spending their money irresponsibly? Of course not. These people would not do anything unless they're paid to do it, and they kind of say, well, we've got running costs. This research costs money, but you never see any meaningful product, do you?
BMW M3 text it needs paying for.
Won't fucking drive itself. I need a chauffeur. Yeah, exactly. It's bollocks. Listen, we know it's bollocks, and they know it's bollocks. And what I find absolutely irritating is the sort of the smug self-righteousness that kind of these people cloak themselves in. Everybody knows what it is. We can see them, but it's this kind of holier than thou attitude that somehow that they are better than us. That's the problem I have with them. It's the superiority that they kind of just exude in waves, isn't it?
Well, that's it. That brings me back to the initial point that brought me onto this, which is, of course, was answering somebody asked the question, what is woke? Woke is someone that cares absolutely 100% and beyond the realms of, I would say, realism about social injustice and political injustice without a shred of thought for actual
The
fiscal.
fiscal aspect.
Or indeed doing anything, because everyone's a social justice warrior expressing faux concern for the plight of less fortunate groups of people. They're typing it on an iPhone that uses fucking cobalt that's been mined by sort of child slaves in Africa. But that's all right. That's okay, because that doesn't affect me. I can feel virtuous because they don't do anything. I'd have respect for them if they put their dough up, not just their time, but their dough. And so I'm going to donate X% of my salary every month to this cause, and I'm going to get out on the streets and protest. Fair snaps to you. Great. You're putting your money where your mouth is. But most of these SJW types, that their outrage is limited to typing on Twitter. That's it.
I think the worry for me is, and I'm worried going forward, not just in racing, but in political world as well, that when this sort of thing comes about, there's usually no real proper analysis of what these measures taken, what groups it will then affect. For example, stable staff, as in there'll probably be a less horse population, because obviously if you can't bet much or you're struggling to get on, people are just going to get bored of paying money into horses not to be able to have a bet. So you're going to get less horses, which means less staff. Everything points to the destruction of racing.
That's all right. You can just turn the horses free in the fields like those idiots from Animal Rising when they were challenged. Like they said, we'll just let all the horses free. That's the mental. You're not dealing with serious, sophisticated thinkers. The whole of society's been dumbed down. You see the quality of politicians.
This lot will want you to set the stable lads free.
Yeah, well, that's not a bad thing, actually.
Well, they
to
will
be
be set
fair,
free, won't they? Because nobody will give a shit
on the dole.
Yeah, they'll be left to roam the countryside scrounging.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, that's all right then, isn't it? They don't think you're not dealing with serious people, and that's the worrying thing. You've got policy being made by almost like sort of sixth form common room show-offs, because that's what these people are. They're like knob ends at school that were prefects or on the school council that produced the school fucking newspaper, full of themselves, that have never done a day's work, gone straight into political research jobs.
In society and...
Yeah, parachuted into its easy constituencies, and you've got people at 25 years old are sort of preaching to working men and women about what's best for them. Fuck off,
Chris, John, talking about going back in days in school, what was your favourite pudding at school? Do you remember? I used to get bananas and custard.
Yeah,
yogurt and biscuit. We used to get that.
School cake and pink custard. Remember that?
Yeah, pink custard.
Right.
Yeah,
you can get the same school cake. This is a tip for all listeners. Go to Aldi, right? And they do school cake with hundreds and thousands on, and it is exactly the same shit they used to serve you, and it's brilliant. I bought some this morning. 90p for 4 slices.
Yeah, we didn't actually have school cake. We had brown cake.
Yeah, brown, blue, green.
It looked like chocolate.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It just tasted brown.
Dust. Yeah, dirt.
It was brown flavoured. And then you
lovely.
could get pink custard with that. And
that
basically tasted of nothing. It didn't even taste of pink.
Well, it got thick skin on, didn't it, as well?
Oh, yeah.
Thick skin on it.
Yeah,
lovely.
Out of the magic.
Yeah. Happy days. Anyway.
Happy days, digressing a bit there. So I've had an email, not going to name him, but he sort of predicted the sort of future for racing here. I agree with some of it. Premierisation is a European Super League for UK racing. Big race courses pump up prize money to make it attractive for the world pool. On-course books remain, but don't get exclusive for off-course betting, commingled with the world pool. There'll be no more fixed odds or exchanges allowed by Premier fixture courses. Big firms will take tote bets as agents. They take their cut. Maybe that's why Flutter kicked off with ARC recently. It was a put-up job to show that they don't want to do fixed odds anymore. Good excuse for a lot of tracks to sell land off for housing, etc. Less tracks means more runners squeezed onto the Premier tracks that they're going to sell. And a question here brought in from our very own Jack, who'll be hosting this show after my P. Diddy revelations.
Yes.
And he said, Saudi national anthem sung at Wembley for the boxing last night, as they've bought the sport. How long before that's happening at Royal Ascot? And is that possibly the only way we survive? John, on to you.
I've no problem with them selling it, to be honest, because the people that are running it at the moment could hardly be crashing it into the ground any faster if that was their sole purpose in life. The BHA are not only not fit for purpose, but they've been enabled to get away with performance that you could describe as mediocre if you were being ridiculously kind. That the racing industry continues to support an ongoing shit show from High Holborn and wrings its hands and says, we can't really do anything about it, the BHA are in charge, blah, blah, blah. They're custodians of this sport. And when all's said and done, that they should just be that, constantly looking at improving the sport, its funding, tracks for followers and participants alike, not rocking along with big corp bookmakers' blueprints that make betting on racing a tough choice compared to slots or whatever. I mean, constantly you see this lack of transparency over key issues and recruitment. Racing as an entity just enables them to continue. They have groups within in racing who could bring down the BHA and insist on massive reform, which is what we need. There's the NTF, the ROA, even Racing Welfare, who are going to have a monumental task clearing up when this does all crash and burn. The Jockey Club, another one, amongst others. These should be insisting on some input and presence when it comes to the recruitment of people at key positions in the BHA. It's no good just letting them get away with these funny fucking handshakes and putting people in posts that are wholly inadequate. They take big bookmakers shilling, the press do, because they'll say, oh, we've got media people sitting on committees, but they're all compromised by what they take from the big bookmakers. BHL say I'm being jaundiced, unfair, so on and so forth. How many chances and leaders do you allow before you say this structure is not only damaging, it is ruining the sport to the extent it'll be on the margins of British culture when it used to be a key component? Massive reform now and some decent people in key positions.
Encore, absolutely superb. Couldn't have put any of that better. Seriously, that is. We're just passionate for the game, John. That's all. A lot of passion for it. Chris, can you better that one? What do you think to the future predictions? Do you think that's realistic? What we got sent as well? The Premierisation is the Super League for UK racing in terms of like with a world pool and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think, as I said before, I mean, I can't, and I think anyone would struggle to better John's sort of summary just there. I echo everything he says. I think it's, you know, what everything shows is there's been an absolute failure of leadership. I think, you know, if you had to point to one reason why racing is going down the U-bend, it's an abject failure of those in charge of the sport to lead it, and it's they have completely genuflected towards the altar of big corp, right? Because they're bereft of ideas, and as you've said before, you know, everyone is out to feather their own nest, right? So, you know, it's in everybody's best interest to follow the lead of government, to follow the lead of big corp, etc., irrespective of what happens to the sport overall. Because, you know, at the end of the day, it's dead, it's finished. Unless there's been something seismic happens, it's finished, I think. So I can't see it sort of existing in its current state in the next sort of within 5 years. I really can't.
No, couldn't even be sooner than that, I'll be
Yes,
honest.
quite.
Because the pressure, I think, with the levy will get heavier and heavier. Because if obviously the other aspect is what no one else has considered, I think, so far that I see in the racing media, is that I think Labour are going to look to tax big corp a little bit more, which again are going to put the squeeze. And then someone's got to pay for that. It's either Punters, which they've already squeezed Punters like to the max at the moment. After that, it has to be the levy. Again, massive fears and worries for the BHA going forwards. So sticking on the BHA then, first exclusive, John referred to it stinks in his Twitter post.
Does.
And of course, this is what John said about good characters employed amongst the sports hierarchy to help the sport thrive and flourish. Well, we probably haven't got the best characters there. And I also think that this is a wider problem within racing and everything that's connected with racing, that there's too many takeout merchants, too many people playing the game like the Gambling Commission, and of course, a senior BHA staff member, appointed director of the BHA back in September 2014. He was appointed director of Bead Gaming on 30th of May 2012. Nature of business and domestic software development for the gaming industry and lottery platforms, which was before his BHA appointment, and he didn't resign from this position until 1st of April 2022, 8 years after the BHA appointment. So why was that? We don't know. Well, we do know. No one's bothered to even check that out or look. Not a conflict of interest, of course. Also a director of Bead Gaming Holdings appointed 13th of May 2014 and obviously resigned on that 1st of April 2022. But whilst in office at the BHA on the 13th of March 2020, this for me is the most damning bit, and this hasn't been talked about yet. He became a director of Falcon Topco Limited and only resigned on the 5th of September 2023. Well, Falcon Topco Limited actually acquired Bead Gaming Holding and subsidiary companies on the 13th of March 2020, the same day he became a director of that same company. So basically, what we've got here is a BHA senior staff member that has massive conflict of interest in the slot industry and gaming industry. And what he did, from what I can read from that, he was probably told to resign from that position, as the BHA may have then finally recognised this is a conflict of interest. You can't do this. So what did he do? Sold it to his own company, Chris.
Yeah, I mean it's it's a very, very well trodden path, so it creates another degree of separation, but it's just simply moving assets to another entity which you ultimately control. I mean it's not even a particularly sophisticated attempt to conceal the beneficial interest, is it? But it's just simply a device to say, there you go, it's nothing to do with me anymore.
The fact that none of the racing media report on this. John, you remember back in the day with the old Sporting Life and stuff like that. You'd have exclusives on things like this. This would be like, but for some reason now, it's all just an absolute loving. There's the odd hit piece. Chris has pointed out before, they did nothing on affordability check. They did nothing for ages. All of a sudden, they pop up.
There's hardly a journalist in the country now you hope would reveal anything.
They're marketeers, John. They're PR merchants. That's all they are. I mean, journalist is stretching it, isn't it? Really far. I mean, the Racing Post is a glorified blog, isn't it?
I mean, if they were doing the job, I suppose there'd be no need for us.
Well, precisely. I mean, I think we're nobodies, but it's extraordinary that people like us, who to some extent are looking on from the outside, are able to highlight these things, where the mainstream media just seem to have no interest or seem to be 6 yards behind the pace. I don't get it. There's no appetite. That's the reason. There are clever people. These, they're not all dim-wits, but ultimately they're there to feather their own nest, and their interests are not served personally by highlighting these issues. So why bother?
Why do you think, chaps, we've got into a historical situation for a while now, a good 20 years plus, probably since Savile? Why have we got into a situation where we are hiring knobheads, like people from other sectors that literally have absolutely zero clue how? In fact, I made this point on the SBC Spaces on Friday night that I don't understand why industries, and it probably just isn't racing, will employ an outlier because it's a fantastic LinkedIn page of glorious supposed successes. But racing's different. Racing really is a very complex and complicated subject that needs hands-on expertise.
What they've chosen to do is go down the mainstream recruitment process and look towards people with a broad set of skills, shall we say, with a good history of promoting inclusivity and diversity, and somebody that ticks all the boxes except the box at the end that says, "Do you give a shit about racing?"
But you're right. It's the idea that skills are transferable. So it doesn't matter whether you're running, British cycling or whatever. Those skills can be transferred readily into any sport. But the problem is these people either have a track record of unmitigated failure, which doesn't seem to affect their job prospects, or B, none of them have actually run businesses that have actually been accountable to shareholders by way of making money. Because if British Racing or the BHA was a business that was owned by shareholders, that entire management team would have been booted out long ago. After the first AGM, they say, look, profits are down. What are you going to do about it? Why have you caused profits to slump or performance to slump? They'd been out on their ear. But because it doesn't make money.
The reason that they keep going is the inertia on the part of the likes of the NTF, the ROA.
Yes, true.
These people allow them to continue down this path. They
Yep.
could bring BHA down tomorrow if they wanted. They
Yes,
could stop
yeah.
racing tomorrow. They could have a meeting tonight and stop it until there's going to be a guarantee of major reform.
That's the thing. I'm really perplexed by why that hasn't happened yet. You talk about, like, obviously the public sector, Mick Lynch and strikes for the rail industry and stuff like that, and
because people sit on their hands in this industry, like they think strikes are something for the lower orders. It's not the done thing, old bean.
The working man, yeah, it's what for the workers, it's for the
This
common
is
man.
what needs to happen. There needs to be collective bargaining on behalf of racing and the people that work within it.
yeah,
Because the people that are going to trash it are going to walk away into lucrative jobs.
Forget punting here, and if people listen to this and go, yeah, you just want it to continue just so you can carry on making money. Well, that's probably one reason I do, but certainly I'm thinking about the bigger picture and not the punting aspect, which I think's done anyway. I'm thinking if racing does survive, then racing really needs to get a pair of bollocks. And from stable staff upwards to jockeys to trainers to owners, you need to realise what's actually taking place here. I'm not saying turn the tide, but you can certainly stem it and bring it more in your favour, because the media rights deals are ridiculous. The tracks are making plenty. You're getting ripped off no end. You should be getting more prize money owners. You still race to get pennies on, or you're having to bet in India or WhatsApp, and then you might not get paid. It's just bollocks. It's time everyone just stood up and said, this is it. We can't accept any more of this. And as an industry, you need everyone on board. Sadly, this industry unfortunately pulls in different directions. A lot of Arab-owned horses, etc., means that certain trainers don't give a flying shit about whatever's happening in the industry, because as long as they keep Arab-owned blue bloods, they're not bothered. That's the problem. It's all self-interest, which it's very difficult to do, to unite the clans, so to speak.
It's going to reach them, though. It's going to reach all of them, and that's what they need to realise.
Well, yeah, we're definitely at Last Chance Saloon now, and I'm not on about Last Chance Saloon to save racing. I'm about Last Chance Saloon to try and repair racing and get it on an upward curve, rather than this constant downward trend, which you will continue to see if nothing else changes and you all carry on doing what you've been doing for the last few years.
No matter what gets said to government in pleas to keep things going and get the Gambling Commission to back off, the government will end up looking at the graph and say, well, it's a sport in decline anyway, so why are we saving it?
We've had one exclusive there where we've done a bit of groundwork, thanks to a anonymous informant. Thank you for that, for providing us with the links. And it's all factual. There's nothing that we've said that is not there in the public domain. So look for it yourself. And that's a senior BHA member of staff, which we think is unacceptable in terms of conflict of interest. Right, second exclusive. Coming on to Chester. So the old wily Franny Norton retire with a lovely treble on Saturday. Great scenes, to be fair. Love it when a senior rider goes out like that. It's nice. It's good for him. He is known as sort of King of Chester, etc. over the years. So I did like to see that. I always like it when a jockey does that on the last day.
Yeah, just like Declan Murphy, like that. It's good. It's always lovely. It brings a tear to the eye, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, but a more serious exclusive here on Chester. You stats pods that are really good might have noticed this, but I've noticed it today even more so. I knew that Chester, stalls 1 and 2, right? They've been struggling all year, and I thought, this is odd, isn't it? The biggest system going, isn't it? Chester stalls 1 and 2, busted. You just, if anything you like in stalls 1 and 2, you just back them, don't you? I can tell you, the last 2 years alone at Chester, if you laid stalls 1 and 2 blind, you'd be 122 points up on Betfair after 2% commission at a click of 43% return on investment. So the masses haven't cottoned on. But this has been happening for a while. This is the bigger bombshell, right? So this has been happening since 2015. Whatever they've done, whether it's overwatering the inside, which probably is just a simple case, there's probably not any groundsman intelligent enough to deliberately fuck things up. They've probably just overwatered the inside. You'd be 295 points up, 22% on investment at Chester. By the way, I need a caveat at that, not the 5 and 6 furlong races, because obviously you could argue that the shortest way around for that trip is probably but the inside is dead. It's deader than a durder. That's a massive lay system. That deserves plaudits. I'm giving someone a 22% return on investment there on a system that's worked since 2015. So, John, what do you think's happened at Chester?
Well, somebody's messing about, aren't they? Obviously.
I just love that. Yeah, somebody's messing about. This is really damning. And to back this up, so if people think I'm talking out my arse and it could just be randomness or whatever, if it was randomness, the place market might show a different story. It doesn't. If you had £1 in the place, every stall's 1 and 2 at Chester, which historically, way back in the day, is what everyone looked for inside traps. You are losing 11.55% on your investment. You're 154 points down, John, in the place market.
Well, I can't afford that kind of problem, so I'm steering well clear of that system.
So lay them in the place. You could lay them in the place, the wins.
Yeah.
Chester have been fucking about. I think this. When did I ain't got the dates here. When did Chester Bet come around? The on-course Chester Bet.
Oh, we're in a dodgy territory now, aren't we?
Well, when did that come about?
I mean, we've had this when we said about people watering biases out because of gross profits tax, didn't we? And now they're at it because of Chester Bet, and we'll be having a look at the Ripon next, and when Ripon Bet started and Ascot Bet, and
it actually started. It replaced the Turt in 2012. So from 2015, that's when all the trouble started. They realised
they've had a look at the figures, haven't they? You know, they've had a look. You know, it never wouldn't stand up at the Old Bailey, but
have I got my foil head on again?
No, I think you're right. I mean, that is such a sort of a broad number, a large number of years. That's not variance.
And 9 years.
And that's not cock up. I'd lean towards the fact that it's a concerted effort to what's the word, mitigate the effects or the mitigated the perceived advantage that was previously enjoyed by traps 1 and 2. They do it dog racing, didn't they? You know, like the first 3 fucking trap ones have come in favourites. The message from the bookmakers to the racing office was sling some more fucking, water down on the outside or whatever. So, it happens all the time in dog racing, or at least it used to. So why not? Why not with racing? I don't think it's cock up at all. I think it's a deliberate ploy.
Given a track like Chester, it's inconceivable that the shortest way around, if you probably the trundle wheel, you're probably saving, probably say over 5 furlongs. Inside to say outside might be 3 to 4 lengths.
That's massive.
Stall 10 to stall 1. So how is it then now where stall 1 and stall 2
are dead,
are getting thumped? A lot of the time.
Yeah.
It's astonishing statistics for a track like Chester, which of course naturally has always suited the inside. Have they done it to stop non-runners and stop and get people out the mindset of stop withdrawing your horse because you've drawn 14 or 14? I don't know.
They've done it to stop punters.
And of course to mess up punters. Yeah, Nick Davies is pissed off because he loves his Chester and he said that. He thinks they're doing a number.
I agree. I think it's more. I think it's more sinister than that. You'd like to think it's incompetence, but I think it's a concerted effort because this is not the odd, just 1 or 2 seasons. This is, a 9-year period.
Mick's saving up to move to Del Mar.
Yeah, he needs a couple of late season forecasts like he normally gets up.
Yeah.
Last year's Cesarovic, Nick, incredible. like that. Chris, me and you were always all out to just try and back a winner, and he's having
Just 11 to
forecasts.
10 chance. Oh,
Yeah, like
you know, and he's got like
30,
a million to 1.
30 runners.
Yeah. Fucking hell, isn't it? Unreal, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's a long time between drinks, and I think you need a different mindset, don't you?
You do. Nick's very patient.
Yep.
2 funnies to finish off then. Chris Pull. He never disappoints.
No.
Not really much, he says.
He says it's reported that police found 784 dildos Puff Daddy's mansion.
You'd fucking know about that, wouldn't you? Christ.
Yeah. Well, Pooley would. Anyway,
exactly.
What would a raid on a Newmarket trainer's gaff unearth?
Oh, Christ, be like Pablo Escobar's house, wouldn't it? Fucking some of them.
Yeah.
Oh, White Christmas, Bing Crosby standing out in the paddock. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and for younger listeners, Frozen, I want to build a snowman.
Yes, of course. Crikey. That's a good question, isn't it? I mean, the obvious thing is the marching powder, isn't it? I'm sure there's plenty of that there. Trying to think what else you dig up I don't know.
Well, if you're really varying, you'll probably find the penguin bulk of racehorse training.
my first paid gig, yeah. Gosh.
Training for dummies.
Yeah.
Training for dummies, your yellow book, yeah, probably. Christ. What would you find at John Gosden's house, do you think, John? What would a raid on his house reveal, I think? What do you think? Elocution, a book on elocution.
Definitely a book on
very important. Speak clearly. Yes, clearly and concisely.
There'd be the Tipping Point Christmas Annual.
Yeah,
there you go. You see?
Definitely.
You find sheets of 30, like, as he ticks off, like, his daily tipping point, saying, and he signed it off at bottom, said, Dad, I'd have won that one today.
Yeah, I'd have copped that. Yeah, I'd have had the lot. Yeah. Yes. Gosh. Blimey.
I don't know. It's Newmarket, isn't it? You've got various yards. You've got the famed Gay Kellaway parties.
Oh, yes.
Like the last days of Rome, wouldn't it?
Like the Weimar Republic, isn't it? The fall of Weimar. Fucking hell, yeah.
Depends. I mean, like, so many different sort of yards. All I know is that Newmarket is just like it's alive, isn't it? It's alive. That's what. It's alive.
Sodom and Gomorrah, and it's like the end of times. I think for some yards, I think, but it's always the way. But yes, I think
that's before McIver Junior gets down there.
Yes,
it is. Northallerton Feeds Junior is attending the Godolphin course for racing, so I wish him well. Northallerton Feeds obviously Decron and supports the northern racing scene very much.
Brilliant.
Wish his lad very well.
Yeah, good luck.
Godolphin. Last question then. Samuel the Cat, geez. Racing media, racing and the anti-gambling lot have joined forces to create a wrestling-themed charity.
God, the geezer's on drugs, and he's got to be on drugs. There's more and more bizarre.
They've all been trained to wrestle. Can you think of any great matches that could happen? So new wrestling names and a song for each wrestler.
Oh, Christ.
Accompany them to the ring. John, you're going to be here.
I'm beginning to think this Samuel the Cat actually lives as a cat and sleeps in a box on the windowsill.
No, I reckon it's you, Lee, taking the piss out of us.
It's not.
It's you. It's fucking you. Ain't a real person. It's you. It's like Ronnie Barker's scripts, The Two Ronnies, was written by, I forget the guy's name, and it was revealed to be Ronnie Barker that wrote the scripts, not the chap that used to pretend to send them in. I reckon it's you.
No, honestly, not.
No, he says.
No.
I've given Samuel's suggestion some thought.
Yes, good, because I haven't really.
As you tend to.
Yes.
And, the wrestling match I came up with was Stone Cold Andrew Rhodes.
Oh, I like that.
Walking on to, I don't know if people remember, a bit of Fry and Laurie, but Hugh Laurie did this protest song where every verse is a protest about something, but offers no solution whatsoever.
I remember that. That's very clever. I remember. Yeah, I do remember that.
He would be up against Bill the Incisor Barber
Ooh,
from the
yeah.
Racing Post, because there's no love lost there.
No.
And I'd have him walking on to Gob on You by Not the 9 O'Clock News Team.
Oh, gosh, yeah. God, you're going back there. That was good.
I live on the 14th floor of a tower block, and when I get bored, I call coo-wee to the passers-by, and when they look up, I gob in their eye.
Brilliant. I don't know what to fucking say to that, do you, Lee? Honestly, I just want to see, completely off topic, I want to see Luke Harvey fight Giant Haystacks. That'd do me. No music, nothing. Just have a row with him, I reckon.
Well, I've got one.
Go on.
I've got Rob the Ripper from The Guardian.
Oh, fucking yeah.
Yeah. Got him walking in.
Without the hammer, though, I hope.
That'd be one of them DQ games, wouldn't it? Where you can use barbed wire and stuff, so hammer would be perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
Okay, fair play.
Walking on to Fleetwood Mac Little Lies.
Big fucking lies.
Yeah. And taking on Adele Mulrennan.
Yeah.
To Karate Kid music. Yeah. And she kicked absolute fuck out of him. That would be my dream, to see Adele Mulrennan kick the absolute fuck out of Rob the Ripper.
Yeah, why not?
I think 60 quid on pay-per-view, I'd pay that.
Well, it's better than Joshua Dubois, wouldn't it, honestly?
Adele, if you're listening to this, set it up for charity. I will put up plenty for that, and certainly give lots to charity, and encourage lots of people to give to maybe the Graham Lee cause. You kicking the fuck out of Rob the Ripper.
Yeah.
Please
make him cry as well. Make him go red and cry. That's what you want to see. Yeah, fucking humiliate him.
No mercy. None. Like headlocks, give him the full shebang.
Yeah, sleeper, fucking everything. Yeah. Honestly, that'll be good telly, that.
Yeah.
Tombstone him, fucking tombstone.
Yeah, tombstone pile driver to finish.
Yeah,
everything that we'd all love to see. Right.
Bloody good telly.
That sums up a great show. 2 exclusives for you there. A big system at Chester that you now can make loads from, hopefully, next year.
You'll find now 1 and 2 will win every race now for the next 25 years.
They'll move it back to inside.
You're wiping out all profits.
Of course, the early exclusive about the BHA senior member. So hopefully you enjoyed that show, and we're back as always next Sunday to chew more fat and talk rubbish. That's all from us. Bye for now.